They say people who like to try new food are more likely to be freakier in bed. Welcome back, guys. This is Madness in Nigeria Living, and I'm your host, Gisi. I would have loved for this episode to focus on sex, because statistically speaking, we're having less sex than the previous generation. But no, this episode is focusing on the food part of that first statement. The Nigerian food is a very interesting thing. And not just the Nigerian food is very integral to the culture of people. So food is how you know the way cultures have evolved over time. And that's why it comes as no surprise that what food you find a particular region eating in Nigeria is slightly different from the next. So that's what we want to talk about today, the Nigerian food. Most times when you ask a Nigerian, oh, what cuisine would you like to try? It's never in Nigerian cuisine. We love the idea of trying an Italian dish, an Asian food, but not the Nigerian cuisine. And it's so funny because we have a lot of local cuisines from different regions. Every region have their own interesting way they make even food we already know. I remember talking to a friend and she called pepper soup glorified meat stock, which is a very fascinating way to put it. But that's one thing that if you come from Delta State, you know there are a lot of pepper soup. There are different ways pepper soup can be prepared. But not just pepper soup, it's the whole ideas behind food. I know there are a lot of people who eat with their eyes, and if it doesn't look appealing to them, they will never try it. And that's why it comes as no surprise that I know people who will never try ewedu and amala. I'm not Yoruba, but god damn, that food is good. When I tried it, I was amazed. And it's not just that, even groundnut soup. I think groundnut soup is arguably one of my favorite soups. And that's the thing, these are food that are not from my region. It's all about the idea of trying new soups. But what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with madness? The madness of trying new food here comes with the current trend we see all over social media. The BuchyMix Blender. Or should I say? No, it's usually the BuchyMix Blender. Anytime you see a trend, there's usually a BuchyMix Blender or BuchyMix oven somewhere. Which is on TikTok, on Instagram, you see people trying to remake meals we have always known, but adding something crazy in there. It's very fascinating. I've seen a lot of recipes and you wonder, whoa, what inspired this? But for most Nigerians, it's not a testament of, oh, this is something I should try. It's a testament of, oh, this is something you definitely shouldn't try and there's something wrong with you. Which brings the question, how do you know what to try when you cook? Because cooking says a lot about your culture, and culture is dynamic. I would love to believe the change we are seeing is a testament of our culture slowly changing. And how does culture affect food? For one, every special event, let's say wedding, marriage, burial ceremony, they all have different meals that are prepared for those events around the different cultures. Every culture have the meal they prepare for burial. It's just to know the significance of that meal. So much so that there's a popular quote that goes, person will live good life, a burial rice is sweet. Because the whole idea is when you live a good life, you want to be honored. It's a celebration of your life. So your food is made with extra love. And understanding how much food play into our way of life, is it a good thing that we are trying to combat that? Is it a good thing that we're trying to change that in our lifetime? Or should we stick to traditions? One of those traditions about food that I find very fascinating here is that gizzards are not supposed to be eaten by women. I think it's an Igbo thing, but I don't know if it's general. But the first time I heard it was in Igbo land. All my life I've seen women eat gizzard, so it was never a big deal. But it's one of those things. And this is a thought process wherein the juiciest of food is reserved for the man. It's the patriarchy mindset. And patriarchy is upheld by many things, food being one of them. Is very fascinating. Should we try to combat that? Should we try to uphold that? These are the questions that food can bring to your mind if you really think about it. Another thing with food here is how it is prepared, the mindset in which goes into the preparation of food. I'm someone who loves to cook. Any person who knows me personally knows I'm someone who loves to cook. A remark I get a lot is, you be wife material. Something that is very integral to our life. We need food to survive. Has been molded in a way that focus on women duty as opposed to a necessary duty for survival. But all that are really irrelevant in this day and age. Does a man need to know how to cook? Does a woman need to know how to cook? One can argue in this day and age is very unnecessary, because for one, if you can afford to buy food, it's so much more easier to buy food than to cook. To cook an average pot of jollof rice as of my time of recording is estimated to be 16k. An average with meat and everything, 16k for one person. If you go to a restaurant to buy the same plate of rice, at most it will be 5k. So you can see there's not much incentive for you to want to cook. And yet, the importance of cooking is still very much tied to a good partner, a good wife, which is very interesting. If we got into the point wherein it's so much more easier to outsource cooking than to cook yourself, why should we still cook? And why am I saying the BuchyMix Blender might be the savior we never asked for? The thing is, cooking is a huge part of our culture. And yes, our culture have a lot of viewpoints that is backward, that is questionable, and that we should change. But we can challenge it through food, through cooking. One thing I love about this trend of cooking, I've been saying, is the fact that we have been bold with what we try to add to our plate. The whole trend of cucumber stew, carrot stew, the whole trend of using carrot to make a new type of swallow. These things questions our culture, it questions our tradition. And I find it very fascinating here that in one hand is the novelty, on the other hand is a product of our current society. When we live in a society wherein the cost of our everyday meals is getting too expensive, we look for alternative. So food is a way to show our Nigerian spirit. It's a way to show our Nigerian culture. It's not every time we see something that is so admirable in Nigeria. And I feel what we are doing with food is one of those things that is very admirable. The cost of tomato goes up. We find new alternatives. We find new ways to make delicious meals we have always loved. And that's something to admire about the Nigerian spirit. I feel if we have that mindset towards everything else, that problem-solving mindset, we'll find solution to the broader problems of Nigerian society. And that's why today I decided to focus on meal. I have a thought process when I'm cooking. If I want to make a meal, I search Google to see if the combination of the two things will create poison. If it's not going to create poison, then I make it. If it's good, new recipe. If it's bad, new recipe to work on. I believe if more people have this mindset, but not just for food, but for the Nigeria story, for the Nigeria living, we'll find new ways, innovative ways to keep on moving forward. And that's something I know Nigerians can truly do because we are smart people. And in the subject of food here, I really find it fascinating that one stable practice in the Nigeria cooking is the addition of stockfish. And finding out that stockfish is not local to Nigeria is very fascinating. I think stockfish has to be one of our biggest imports. It's one of those things that we don't really think about, but we import a lot of stockfish because it's a huge part of the Nigerian meal. This has nothing to do with the episode. I just really find it fascinating. This also has nothing to do with the episode, but I have a propaganda against crayfish. Can we stop adding crayfish to food? Please, eliminate it. You don't need it. I know some people will disagree with me, so if you do, please leave it in the comment. So, thank you once again for tuning in. This is just one of those episodes that I wanted to ramble about my love for food and the importance food play in our culture. I really didn't focus a lot about the cultural aspect of food because I couldn't find a lot of research on this. I tried asking around. Most people didn't know the significance of food in their society. They all knew they have like food for special occasion, but they didn't know the exact significance. Maybe it is supposed to mean prosperity or new life, but in all it's irrelevant. Food is meant to be enjoyed, and I love that as a society we have a lot of options, but we only feel like we have a lot of options where we are willing to explore. So maybe today go to the local restaurant, try a new meal. a completely different meal. It might be dog meat, it might be snake meat, it might be a soup as dark as black soup, it might be a soup as colorful as ewedu. But either way, just have an open mind, try a new meal, and come back again next week. Bye.